welcome you all. Julie Brecke, I'm your county clerk, as Judy introduced me as. Thank you for the water. I appreciate you all being here. I am going to talk to you about election security tonight. I told her that I would introduce myself. I have been sick, so I'm sorry if I do start coughing. And I've also been to the dermatologist, so it's just been a lot today. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys just a brief overview of me, and then I'll jump right into it, okay? I am from Coos County, born and raised here, went to Marshfield, went to SWAC, and then continued my education through Eastern Oregon and then through SOU. And I was a teacher for 16 years for the North Bend School District. And then I decided to transition over to elections, where I have been for the last 3 years. I also teach part-time for SWAC in early childhood education, where I've also been teaching part-time for the last 3 years as well. I'm a mom, as you can see, rushing in my kiddos in wrestling. And so I just picked him up and dropped him off at home. So I stay quite busy. But we are, like I say, we are very invested in our community. So this job was a new challenge for me to take on, but also one that kept me playing a vital role in the community, like education does as well. And there's an education piece to elections, so that kind of ties that in. So I have been enjoying myself. I know that elections have been much more of a popular subject in the last, 5 to 10 years, more so than they had been in the past. But I'm not one to shy away from a challenge, so it's been a good fit for me. Having said all that, I will talk about elections as long as you guys let me, really. Like I say, I'm a teacher, so I can stand up here and talk for a long time. But I would also like to take questions, because I'm sure all of you have questions, things that you're dying to know. So I will stop for questions, but if you're hearing me talk about something and there's something that you're just really dying to ask, just kind of give me a hand and I'll try and pause and dig into it.
They have slips that they will...
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. Well, having said that, I did send like a 2-page flyer, so you guys have some basic information. I'm going to go through that a little bit, but feel free to share that with others as well. Also, I like to tell people that if people have questions, instead of trying to convince people, sometimes it's best to just tell them to call our office or go on our webpage. We do have a very extensive frequently asked questions section that I think is helpful. So if you don't find your answer there, we'd love to hear from you. Lark and Sarah in our elections office, they're fabulous. They'll answer your questions. And we love to make sure that we're the ones to give the information and it's coming straight from a reliable source, right? Okay. So, as you know, it's primary season. I know a lot of people think that elections happen day of. I'm sure you all don't think that. But a lot of people think that we just have one election a year, and what do you guys do the rest of the year? And that, yeah, I hear a laugh back here in support. Thank you. That is not the case. So we are currently working on the primary election, which will be May 19th this year. And so we're taking filings for that now, and we have deadlines every week leading up to where, as we get closer, the deadlines will become daily. So we stay very busy. I like to remind people that during a primary year, you need to make sure that you are registered with your intended party before the primary election date, and this kind of throws people off, especially if they're not from Oregon originally. But April 28th this year is the day that you need to be registered with whichever party you intend to be with and want to vote for in the primary. In Oregon, on your ballot in the primary, if you're a Democrat, you'll get options to vote for the Democrats that they're trying to decide which ones they're going to send to the general. If you're a Republican, same, you'll get a chance to vote for the Republican that you're wanting to send to the general. If you're a non-affiliated voter, then you'll still get a ballot. Or if you're a member of one of the other parties that's not Democratic, you'll still get a ballot. But that ballot will have nonpartisan positions on it. So this year, you'll have the sheriff, you'll have the commissioners, you'll have the clerk is on the ballot this year, so you'll have those types if you are nonpartisan. I also like to remind people that not affiliated and independent are not the same thing. Independent is a party, and that throws people a lot. They'll say, well, I registered as independent is a party, so I like to remind people of that as well, just so that they're aware. So yeah, April 28th in Oregon, like I said, you will get, we do have 2 different ballot styles depending on what party or 3 different ballot depending on whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or you're not with a party. And there's been some confusion. Sometimes people will say that we color code them based on party, the outside of the envelopes. That is not the case. Our ballots are a hot pink. That hot pink was chosen because that's our county color. Each county has a different color, and that's because sometimes we'll get a ballot from another county that someone has voted. That's okay to do. Like if I happen to be traveling and I'm like, oh no, I have my ballot here with me that I've already voted and I forgot to put it in my ballot box and I'm in Multnomah County, it's before the election date, I can drop it in the Multnomah ballot box still. And it'll get to Coos County still. And so all the counties have different colors. Ours happens to be hot pink. That's why you'll also see us wearing hot pink vests when we pick up ballots from the ballot boxes. So that isn't to tell us what party you're with. It's just to tell what county you're with. That way when we're sorting, when we get them, if we see ones with different color strips, we can put them in a bin so that we know that they need to get to that county. Because we have so many days to deliver them to that county so that county can accept them. So that's one of the pieces of misinformation that I like to correct before people get confused on that. How do I register? Again, most of you probably know this, but it's good information to share with your friends and family. You can get a registration card from the library, from City Halls, the courthouse, in our office there. You can also go online to OregonVotes.gov. And OregonVotes.gov is a great place to get information, like if you want to check what party you're registered with, or you want to turn in a new voter registration card because maybe your signature is changed, because our signatures change. So that's a great place to check. It's also a great place to check to make sure we've received your ballot. So when you turn in your ballot and we scan it in our office, it's notified on OregonVotes.gov, and you can go in and see where your ballot was received. So it's a great resource for you all. I also wanted to point out that as I came through the door, they said they have voter registration cards at the front, so if you need one, you can grab one there as well. The first day ballots are going to be mailed for the primary is April 29th, and so there's a time period where we start preparing them before that though, because we have to, for a major election, some of them we do in-house and we mail from our office. Some of them go through like a mass mailing because there's so many, right? So it's good to remember that if you go to the DMV or have an address changed in like the month leading up to an election, that will trigger a change in our system. So you might receive 2 ballots. Now if you receive 2 ballots, it's okay. It was intended to happen. It's maybe you went to the DMV and changed your address and then they let us know. And we'd already we'd already done our mass mailing file, right? So what will happen, you'll receive your original ballot on the outside, on the envelope. You have to look, it's kind of small, it'll say original. And say you get that one and you vote it, and then another ballot comes. And it says reissued. It's okay. Just don't vote the second one. You're only legally allowed to vote once in Oregon during an election, or in any election in the country. So just don't vote that second one. The first one will still count. What will happen is we will hold it because it's the original and not the reissued one. Excuse me. And so what will happen is we'll hold it till election night after 8 p.m. Our computers, we put a notification in the computer system, it reminds us. And then after 8 p.m. on election night, then we'll count it. We hold it because we want to make sure you didn't try and vote again. Now, if that were to happen, you voted that original one, the second one comes, and you're like, oh no, and you're not sure, you can always call us and ask us. But what I would do is with that second one, I would just shred it, and you know that you voted. And then, like I say, your vote will count after that 8 p.m. time. Now, say the first original one comes, and then the second one comes, and it's a reissued one, and you haven't voted at all, I would go ahead and vote the reissued one, because then what will happen is it will go ahead and get processed as normal. We've already put a hold on the original one, so the original one wouldn't get processed. So go ahead and vote that reissued one. So this happens. It's not because we're trying to get you to vote twice. It's because there's been some sort of change with your voter registration from the time we mailed until the time you received, okay? So again, if there's any confusion and you're not sure what to do, just give us a call and we're happy to help you with that, okay? I do encourage you that if you haven't checked your signature in a while that we have on file, it would be great if you could check it before a major election. And the reason for that being, as we age, our signatures change. If I break my hand, my signature is going to change. If I am a young voter and I maybe signed one way when I was 18 and now I'm 22 and my signature is more mature, I've come into myself a little bit more and I feel more comfortable with my signature, then it's going to change, right? So the best way to deal with that is to just check it and give us an updated signature by filling out a voter registration card. And all of those signatures will stay on file in our office. If for some reason your signature gets rejected, that's okay too. That happens. We do have people who signature verify with their own eyes. They're trained individuals, and they are checking your signature compared to what we have on file. And if that person decides, no, it doesn't look the same, then it gets checked again by a full-time staff member. And if they decide, doesn't look the same, then we don't accept it, the ballot. And what will happen is you will get a letter, notification in the mail saying your ballot was rejected for this reason. And you have 21 days to solve that problem so that your vote can still be counted. And again, what we're going to ask you to do at that time is just give us an updated signature, and then if you get it within that time window, we'll still be able to accept your ballot. That's part of the process. That's the way that we verify who you are. So when that happens, it means that the process is in fact working, right? Any questions so far? I know you guys have cards, but I'm used to asking questions as I go, so it feels weird to just keep talking without a break. And I'm going to take a sip of water. Like I say, I do have a cold, so.
So this person asked, what should I do if I get someone else's ballot in the mail?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. If you get someone else's ballot in the mail, you should treat it just like any other mail that you get. You can write does not live here on the outside, or if they've passed away, you can write deceased on the outside, and then you just clip it right back on your in mailbox. I clip mine on the outside of my mailbox. That's the way my mailbox works. Some of you put them in and put the flag up. However you do it at your house, so that the mailman comes and takes it back to us. They're non-forwardable, so they'll come right back to us, and then that will allow us to update that in the system. Yeah. So a point on this: people do hang on to mail all the time. They tell us, we keep receiving this person's mail. Every year we get a ballot from this person. And I like to remind people that it's against the law to hang on to someone else's mail. So if they don't live there for whatever reason, it's your responsibility to put it back in the mail, and that comes back to us. So please don't be hanging on to other people's mail.
So this one has two parts. Please compare, contrast security of mail-in ballots versus in-person.
Okay.
And then please discuss possible signature, oh, you already did this, mismatch between motor vehicles registration and actual signature.
Yeah, okay, I'll start with the second part because we've already talked about signature, and I would like to clarify. I know that when you go to the DMV and you sign on the little pad, it doesn't always come out looking like your signature, and I understand that. And that's why if you don't feel like that really looks like your signature because it's on that little pad, just fill a paper copy out and throw it in the mail, and we'll get that and we can update it so that we have that most recent signature for you, okay? And then the compare and contrast of security of mail-in ballots versus in-person ballots. I recommend that you drop it in the ballot boxes because it's the fastest way to get it to us. So when you drop it in a ballot box, they have cameras on them, and the cameras are connected to our offices. So we can watch them, we can go back and look at them. We also have fire suppressants in all the ballot boxes, so we have really great security on ballot boxes. We also, when we send people to ballot boxes during a major election, we use two people of different political parties, and we keep logs of when they got there, when they left. And when they bring them in, we have a log of how many ballots were brought in. And we have logs of days that they were picked up and days we planned to pick them up. It is very, very documented. So as far as the one I would choose, I would just drop it in a ballot box. Even though I work in the office, I still sometimes drop it in a ballot box just because it's easy for me. But you are more than welcome to do it any of the ways, and that's kind of a nice thing. You can put it in the mail if you want to put it in the mail. You can drop it in a ballot box if you want to drop it in a ballot. You can bring your ballot to our office, vote in the hallway, and hand it to us through the window, and we have a secure box within our office if you'd like to. Whatever makes you feel the most secure, I think, is what's important.
And I think maybe they might have been, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure about.
And I'm going to get to that. Yeah, I know where you're headed. And if I don't get there, you can catch me, okay? But I do know where you're headed with that. So, as far as the U.S. Postal Service has put out the recent news saying that that they're not going to, I won't recap what they said, but the U.S. Postal Service said that as far as the stamp that tells us the date that it was received in the U.S. Postal Service, the postmark, they call them a cancellation mark, actually. And the reason that they call it a cancellation mark, I just learned not that long ago because I was at a meeting with the U.S. Postal Service, and I guess it's a mark that's always historically been used within office for them. Okay. Well. With taxes and with elections, that mark has been used for other things, right? We kind of hijacked the mark, I guess, but it's still been used for other things, right? And so with elections, as long as you have the postmark on there, by 8 p.m. on election night, we can still count it. And that's still true. So if you want to drop your ballot off at the post office, and it's really close to election day. We've always told people, go in and get it hand canceled. What that means is you just hand it to the postal worker and say, can I get my ballot hand canceled? And they'll do it right in front of you, and then it has that time and date stamp on there, okay? That's the way we've always told people to do it. And so nothing is changing as far as the recommendation goes from us. It's still the same. If it's close to election day, go in and have it hand canceled if you want a guarantee that it's gonna be counted. I would recommend that if it's close to election day, that you bring it to our office or drop it in a ballot box, because that's gonna be your 100% guarantee, right? Because even if you go in and get it hand canceled, it still has to go through the mail and get to us. So there is some time there, but it's still a best practice if you're real close. Or the other one, as soon as you get your ballot, try and sit down and vote it and get it in quickly. The thing that's nice about getting the ballots back quickly is that the more people who do that, then the more ballots we have processed on election night. So when we give you the totals on election night, they're going to be closer to what the final totals are, because we're going to be able to have gotten through more of them by 8 p.m. or by midnight or 2 a.m. whenever we go home on election night, right? So it's good to get them in as soon as you can. If you're getting close, go in and get it hand stamps if you're going to take it to the post office. But if it were me, I would still put it in a ballot box or bring it into our office. Did that answer?
No.
Okay.
The one about in person, I was thinking they might have meant instead of doing mail-in ballots that we go to our precinct.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah. So as far, and I think I'm going to save that question because that's part of my presentation about the history of mail-in ballots and all that stuff that I'll get to in just a little bit. So, and I'll take some more questions in just a second.
Yeah.
It helped me break it up a little bit and get a drink of water, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm going to just go through the path of the ballot really quickly for you guys, just so that you're aware of how we, where your ballot goes and how we process it. So the path of the ballot, it says, have you ever wondered what path your Coos County ballot takes, and for when it's produced and sent to you, to when it's cast and ultimately counted? So your ballot begins. Your ballot packet is prepared about 50 days before the election and mailed 20 days before the election as required by Oregon state law. Now there are different deadlines for out-of-country mailings and then out-of-state mailings and then in-state mailings, because of course those things take longer, right? So out-of-country is going to be out a little bit further, out-of-state is going to be a little bit less, and then so on and so forth. So if you don't receive your ballot, make sure you give us a call. If all your friends are receiving them or your family members are receiving them and you haven't received yours, just give us a call. We can look into why, and then we can always reissue you a new ballot. And like I said, we have a process for that, so we can make sure that only one is counted, right? And then you cast your ballot, so that's when you vote. You can, like we talked about already, you can do it in all of those locations. You can do it in a ballot box, you can put it in the mail, you can come to our office and vote there, you can hand it to us through the window, however you feel the most comfortable. Now in Oregon, you are allowed to also, like a family member could take your ballot to the ballot box for you. That is acceptable. The reason for that being, if you live in a house where you have 3 voters, it's just kind of nice that somebody can take them all in. You do have to sign your own ballot though, of course, before they take it. Sometimes people forget to sign it. So make sure you sign it before that happens. The other reason is because of accessibility. Some people, they can't get to a ballot box, and so it's nice if they can ask their neighbor to take it for them or something along those lines. So during state and federal elections, mailed ballots are received and processed daily. Smaller elections, they may not be processed daily. We're going to hold on to a batch of them so that when we do process them, there's enough in a batch that we keep that that security for you, that there's not just 1 or 2 ballots, and it's easier to keep the confidentiality of it, right, if there's more ballots in a batch. So during small elections, sometimes we'll keep them in the vault for a number of days until we have a certain number, and then we'll process. It's also because of staffing, right? We're not going to just process them each time they come through. Now, I will say when we get them in our office, the first thing we do is they get scanned into the system. So when I say we're gonna hang on to them, we will first scan them in, and so that they are, and we will signature verify, and then we'll hang on to them. What I mean by processing them is like the opening of them at that point. So when we first receive them, we do scan them in, and that's when you can go into myvote.gov and see, yep, it's been received. And then we signature verify. If the signatures match, then they get moved to a separate room where we would, in groups of 2 individuals of different political parties, they sit across from each other. We call them boards. One person takes the ballot from the envelope and slides it over, and so that at this point the envelope and the ballot are separated, and the other person unfolds the envelope and makes sure it's nice and flat. Now at this point, and in the other room, we're balancing all the way through, so we're making sure that the numbers always match. So at the table, before that full batch moves to another area, this section and this section have to have the same numbers, and they're not allowed to communicate what those numbers are. Like, they count them, and when they provide them to the person, we always have a full-time person watching the whole process, they would provide them those totals on separate pieces of paper. We'll compare the totals, and they have to be the same before they can move on to the next table, right? So at this point, the envelopes with your signature and the actual ballot are separated, and they go in different directions. The envelopes are held onto in a batch and then put up on the wall through the day. We put them away after, but the ballots themselves are put into batches, and they head to the tabulation machines. Same room. So this happens in a room that doesn't have internet, isn't connected to the internet. The tabulation machines are never connected to the internet. They don't have the capability to be. And the tabulators, I like to remind people I think sometimes think they're a little more sophisticated than they are. They really are just like Scantron machines, like when some of you were kids and you did the little bubble tests in school, right? They just are looking for bubbles. That's all they're looking for. So it takes a picture of the ballot, or scans the ballot, and it just records bubbles, okay? So at that point, we are able to compare again the total that was scanned through to the total that was supposed to be in the box, and they have to be the same before we can accept it. And each one of those has a little slip that you sign off on to say, yep, it was the same, accept it to move forward. So as we're going through, there's constantly checking and double checking and balancing and making sure that the numbers all match. No results are allowed to be given until after 8 p.m. on election night. If you are a full-time staff member or a part-time staff member, you swear that you're not going to give those totals out or talk about them. The part-time, most of the time nobody even sees them until after 8 p.m., but if you were to accidentally see this screen where we were tabulating and saw a total, you're not allowed to give any of that information. It's not allowed to be discussed in the room at all until after 8 p.m. Now at 8 p.m., we will put up a 8 p.m. election total. It's an unofficial total, right? Because we haven't, of course, counted all of them yet. but we'll put up an unofficial 8 p.m. election night total. And that will be made public on our webpage. And we will print off those totals and put them at the window. We are open, I like to remind everybody, until 8 p.m. on election night. We open at 7 in the morning on election day, then we stay open until 8 p.m. So if you do have some sort of an emergency where your ballot gets destroyed last minute or something, you can still give us a call and we can help you. So then the tabulation happens, and we typically in a major election will try and stay until all of them have ran through the tabulation machine. Now sometimes if it gets to 2 o'clock in the morning and we have a lot of same-day voting, we will go home because we do have to come back at 8 and we have already had a very long day. So, but we will do another total that next day once we finish the tabulation process. Adjudication is what happens after election day, and that is where you, like if you have a write-in, adjudication, write-ins are tallied during adjudication, or if you were to cross out a vote and vote for something else, then that would be checked during adjudication as well. Again, this happens with 2 full-time staff members, and so it can be observed by the public. You can sign up to observe for any of these processes. The process for signing up is online, so go ahead and take a look at that. And we encourage people to come and observe as well. We then always store the ballots for, federal law requires that we hold them for the paper ballots for 2 years, and then we also have a hard drive of the ballots as well. During federal and state elections, we do a hand-counted audit. So what will happen is the state will tell us what batches to pull and audit after the fact. We don't know which ones they're going to be. We'll go through and have to hand count those and then compare them to our totals and make sure that they fall within the legal limit, which is very, very small.
Question?
Yes?
Since you don't have to keep them after 2 years, when do you get rid of them and how do you destroy them?
So yeah, after 2 years, we do dispose of them, and we have a shredding company that comes and does that. They are the same ones that do it for like the state courts and that. Yeah. And like I said, we do still have an electronic copy after that, but we don't have the actual physical ones after that. And until that point, they are kept in a secure location. Yeah. We can take a quick question, or I could go into vote by mail for just, if you would rather.